study is going to be a school consolidation update presented by Dr. Rumbach. And so we'll go ahead and kick it right over to you, and we'll go through the slides and ask some questions.
Perfect. Thank you. I was hoping that I could sing this to you all after that, but I will spare you the agony of that. But what a great way to kick off this evening. So as you might recall, the last time we were together, we had talked about providing the board with updates in some consistent categories with information that was repeatable each time. So you'll notice that is the same today. You'll also notice that we've entered into a little bit of a holding pattern in the sense that we have collaborated deeply with our school administrators who are now collaborating with their school staffs, and that work is sort of in progress. So you will notice some of that as we move through the slides here. So we always wanted to start with the fiscal considerations and updates. There are no new updates for you in terms of anything beyond the budget capacity that we have in place. As we move through what I'm going to call the spending season of this project, you will get expenditure reports as those costs are incurred or encumbered. And we will be providing those for you again as they come in. Brandon and Greg will be partners in that, and they'll be available should you have any questions. But for now, we are still sort of in that holding pattern as we're finalizing the assessment of the building at Marysville Middle School and assessing what those expenditures will be. Yes, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and ask as they come up.
$50,000 budget, is that divided between the capital fund and the general fund at this point, or is it just, I mean, you have budgets for each, I guess?
Brandon, do you want to speak to that?
Grab that mic right there. We got a Zoom audience. I think I just want them to be able to hear the question.
Yeah, so the question was, is that 350,000 already delineated between the capital and general funds? And right now, we've just identified the $350,000 potential. It hasn't been broken out in specific categories yet. And we're working on doing that at the same time as we push our revised budget down through the smaller cracks of the budget. So
And we can include that information in our next update for you for sure. Any other questions on fiscal?
Curious if we have a sense of when the conversations with our labor groups about adjusting MOUs and all of that, when that might be complete.
That is in progress currently. As of last week, we were still working with our labor partners as they were developing their teams that were going to engage in that MOU conversation with us. I think that there's a shared interest across all labor groups to begin, engage, and finish those MOUs so that we can do the actual work of making staff placements. So we're on track with where we should be. I've been impressed with our labor partners that are thoughtful around making sure that those MOU teams are broadly reflective of our employee groups. And so they've really been thoughtful to ensure that to the best ability possible, everyone has a voice at the table. So delay is not the right word, but thoughtfulness around getting that group together takes a little bit of time. Yeah. Great question. Other questions? All right. Couple of updates for you on facilities and operations. So I have worked to provide the Liberty Administrator, Principal Hammond, with campus maps. He is in the process of reviewing those maps, and the maps, of course, would be Marysville Middle School maps to determine classroom assignments for the coming school year. So there's been a lot of interest for not only staff that know they'll be at Liberty next year, but also staff that are curious or think they may be at Liberty/Marysville Middle. And so we have really tasked the administrator with determining what is going to be the best way for his team to be able to make decisions with regard to classrooms. So he has met with myself, he's coordinated with Lori Knutson on that, and we just want to be sure that we empower him to be in the driver's seat to make some of those decisions. In partnership, of course, with existing staff at the building. We want to be thoughtful that we still have a family of staff that are Marysville Middle School employees that want to be honored in the role that they'll play the rest of the year. Questions on maps and classroom or work assignments next year?
Has there been any consideration to, in the event that other programs are brought into that facility before the division? I mean, I know that MMS is unique that you can kind of break it off into different sections. So is there one particular area that Liberty's looking at? Another one we're going to reserve it with?
Yeah, right now the map is indicating that we would have sort of that main hallway, I'm going to say off to the right as you come in for the elementary school, that potentially has just enough classrooms to hold that. And then down the other subsequent hallways, if co-op made the decision they wanted to be there, we could cluster those classrooms together, and similarly with high cap. There are also portables there. I know there's a lot of different feelings about portables, but those are certainly backup spaces. It seems right now that there's an interest in ensuring that Liberty folks are together, that high cap folks are together, and if co-op decides to go there, that they are together as well versus dispersed sort of randomly across the campus. Yeah, good question.
Has the decision been made that high cap is going to be located there, or is that still under study?
High cap will be located
Okay.
at the campus. The co-op families, I am meeting with them in a couple of days, maybe tomorrow evening, actually, and they've got some questions, but I don't know that they've made the final decision yet.
And then I'm assuming that it looks like all the other elementary schools, because of the 5th and 6th grade relocation, and then of course because of high cap moving out of 6th school, all the other elementary schools are going to have to look at reorganizing their classrooms. I assume that's basically an internal thing at this point.
It is. And, when enrollment goes up or down, and in Marysville's case down, there's a little bit of that shuffle that happens every spring and summer in preparation for fall.
So one more quick question that's a follow-up really to Mark's question.
Yes.
And I think I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask anyway. So there is definitely capacity at each of those buildings to accommodate our 6th graders. We don't necessarily anticipate having to move portables around or create capacity anywhere. Even I think Quilceda is one of our bigger elementary schools. We still have some capacity there to accommodate everybody.
That is correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. All right, staffing and human resource updates. So we had anticipated that HR would be sending out the seniority list, and so that should happen this week, if not already out. Oh, okay, thank you, perfect. The other topic that we have been having with our MEA partners is a collective and a coherent way to collect information from members on their preferences for the coming school year. And initially, there was an interest in schools perhaps doing that individually. Then there were concerns about, well, how do we get the data into one data set? So we were grateful to have the conversation with MEA. They're kind of in the driver's seat, which is not uncommon for developing a survey of their own membership. And so that is something that they are coordinating with human resources. We've just said from the beginning, we really want folks to land in a place that they would like to be to the best of our ability, and collecting this information is one way to do that. And then lastly, projected enrollment, not necessarily related specifically to consolidations, but certainly includes consolidations, have gone out to principals. That went out last week. And so they have their projected enrollment for the coming school year. Most important word there is projected, and we always project low, as you know. All districts across the state are using low projections for enrollment and staffing. So it's kind of exciting to see that we're starting to put names to faces to schools to staffing as we move into the coming school year. Any questions on staffing? All right, communications. So this is just kind of designed to show that we try to bookend our communications with daily design team meetings and then updates to the board. And everything that happens in between those two spaces, you can kind of see collected there. So this is not new information for you. It's just visualized a little bit differently. We have weekly staff communications and weekly family communications. We have up to this point had very similar communication for staff and families, and we're going to begin to differentiate that a little bit. The work is naturally beginning to separate into some pretty distinct buckets for families and staff, so those will be a little bit different. Obviously, we will continue to update our administrators weekly. We are tuning folks to our week by week sort of what to expect document. That's been very helpful. And you've seen our monthly roadmap in terms of what folks can expect by month. And then the newest ad, that bottom right-hand box, is a building by building programmatic offerings map, as it were. And that is just a way for our staff to know what special programs or services are at each building. With the number of buildings we have, that can be easy to sort of forget. So that's also something that I'm going to share with the board this Friday as well. So you'll have a sense of what services are at each building. And communications team and I have been thoughtful on being thorough, but not overdoing it. And so trying to not continue to add communication structures, but really lean into the ones that we have in place. Any thoughts or feedback on communications or questions? Go ahead.
Um, Sorry. So I heard you say we're not necessarily adding different communication structures. I guess I'm curious if we're targeting some of our communications to like our rising sixth graders, just because that's obviously a very different expectation from what folks might know, or if we have targeted communications to our MMS families, since that's obviously a big shift for some of those,
Yes.
or if we're just kind of blanketing kind of everybody.
We're doing a little bit of both. So these are what I would call routines. So these are repeatable routines that families can and staff can expect to hear from. There are needs for, and there will continue to be needs for specialized letters or communication to go out to fifth grade families at Marysville Middle School, or sixth grade families, or fifth and sixth across the system. And so those would be dedicated to that specific group and would be different from sort of these. I think my earlier comment was we didn't want to add another layer to the routines because people sort of stop looking. But you're absolutely right. I think there's probably 3 campuses in particular that we're going to want to target some specific letters and communications to. And you'll see that coming in the coming weeks.
Thank
Yep.
you.
All right, we have talked about collaboration being at the top of the list in terms of how we want to do the work alongside others. So in terms of what you might see if you were to go out to a school and sit in with an administrative team and their building instructional leadership team, you would see that they're collaborating together on designing what the instructional model will look like, whether that's at the elementary school or at the middle school. And I am continuing to meet weekly with our district staff and helping, or not only our district staff, but our administrative staff, and helping them think about what can they anticipate as they work alongside their teams, so that not only is their BILTT team designing this work, but how does that get out to the rest of the staff? And so really it's arming our administrative teams with information and confidence in having those conversations. So it's been nice to hear principals report back on how those conversations have happened, what the successes are, sort of what the nervousness is. And we are, at the end of the week, going to be ready to communicate with MEA a little more clearly on what the model might look like at specific buildings. I know that's been a question the board has had. What will the 5th and 6th grade model look like across the system? So the next update that you get will include that, and just know that that has come from the building staff itself. And then labor partners, we certainly can't do this work without them. So the design team is invested in meeting with them and exchanging feedback sort of on how this process is going. Any thoughts on this slide?
I know that legacy staff went out last week and did some site visits. Is there any feedback yet from them on preferences for location?
Yeah, thanks for that. I checked in with Dr. Burgess this morning and we had not yet heard back from the principals, so we'll be reaching out and kind of seeing how that went and where they landed. All right, elementary school update. So similar to the slide you just saw, they are heavily in the planning phase, designing what 5th and 6th grade models will look like for the coming year. You'll recall that we use this tight loose structure. That's been really helpful for them as they sort of get in the weeds with their teams. We have also seen a natural synergy for building principals really wanting to work together on, what have been the challenges and successes at your building and vice versa. So they really are a nice group of colleagues amongst themselves. They're nearing, like I said earlier, the decision point around what is the model going to look like at their buildings, and we're going to really push for that this week. We are working to develop a music subcommittee so that we can answer the question for our community in more details about those possible morning music offerings. And I think we just saw a really great rationale as to why we would want to have that be part of our system. And then the last piece that is new there, that last bullet point, is there is an interest already in our building principals to be thinking about who's going to be with them in the spring or I should say in the fall, and how do we get folks ready in the spring? So what are the existing structures that we could repurpose to allow staff to come together in the spring at their newly assigned building and do some culture building, get to know one another? It also offers input for those incoming staff to have on the instructional model and design for the coming year. So we have a nice window of opportunity in the spring to get everybody together. And of course, the first step in that is to get everybody assigned to a location for the coming year. So we will share with the board a little bit more about what those spring events will look like, because we really do want folks to be in their building well before the first day of school, their new building.
Couple questions.
Yes.
Is there already clear definition about which aspects of the instructional model will be identical amongst the elementary schools and where there will be flexibility? Is that already clear?
Yes, it is. So we've worked with the elementaries together to build up what those guardrails are. That's sort of the tight component that we talked about.
Okay.
And that is that there will be blocking in some fashion. And we're allowing the buildings to work together to determine, is that a 5th, 6th together block? Is that a 5th, 6th separate block? Or is that a 6th grade block with some innovations around 5th grade getting ready for that middle school? That's what we want to get in your hands at our next update.
Okay, and that will be the same amongst all the elementary schools?
No, the
Okay.
tight is you must be blocked.
Okay,
And what that looks like in your building, you can make decisions around the configuration of that. One reason why we wanted to give some flexibility, it's difficult to block if you have an odd number of sections.
okay.
So just the kind of the simple math can impact a building's ability to block separately or together. So we're allowing them some flexibility in that design.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there going to be some attempt to get some metrics to develop? Because obviously, if you're going to have different approaches in the different schools, you may find that some may be more successful than others. I mean, is there going to be some attempt to measure that and possibly modify that model in the future based on which approaches are more successful than others?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the data that we would use for that would be the assessment that we collect during the school year, also our SBA data. One of the things that we know is that there is no magic model. There isn't a model that is statistically significantly better than another. What we do know is what happens inside the classroom between students and teachers is what impacts outcomes for students. And then, of course, what supports that school teachers, administrators have to deliver on that work. And so I think this is an opportunity not only for us to think about blocking, but also peel back the layers of that onion to determine what is the need for our instructional staff, period, in the district so that we can make improvements along the way.
I don't have a question per se, but I do want to keep us on track. Just a reminder, we've got 10 minutes for a hard stop at
Okay.
6. Okay?
Thank you.
I do have one more question on
Yeah.
this one. It says, it says music subcommittee. I'm interested, are we looking at approaches that bring multiple schools together so that for music education, so that we can take advantage of make it easier, I think, to have instrumental music for.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
that's what we're looking at. We're looking at clustering or grouping our elementary schools at specific middle schools, sort of during the 0 hour to be able to, as Dr. Burgess says, economy of scale, right? So that we can scale that up. All right, middle school, very similar. First bullet point, our teams are still in the planning phase. It's not fast, and I think we want to be thoughtful that we give our building teams the time to do the planning that we need and want them to do. Some of the topics that are coming up that groups and schools are really having to plan around, you can see here CTE, music, prioritizing reading, writing, and math. Again, welcoming new staff. And for our secondary levels, they're really thinking about building those master schedules and what that will look like in a 7-8 model. So all good things. Grateful that they have the opportunity to reach out to anyone in this building to help them with that in terms of running numbers. And then certainly them getting their enrollment projections this week has made that work possible. Questions on middle school? All right, this is the last time that I will have this image in here. I just always think it's a good reminder for us to think about that P12 continuum and how we serve students across all grade bands as we move forward in this particular configuration. Any final questions?
What do you see as the biggest challenge going forward here, let's say in the next month or so?
Probably pinning folks down on, you know, what's the decision? What are we going to do? I think there's an interest in making the right decision every time, and letting the perfect be the enemy of the good can be a challenge. And that said, as we, you know, make decisions on what exactly is the elementary model, still allowing that flexibility as school teams move through the process and realize, oh, maybe that really isn't the right place for us to go with the students that we serve. We can plan forever, can't we? Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you. I've taken some notes that I'll include in our next update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and break. We've got regular sessions starting at 6 o'clock. So 6 o'clock on the dot, we will begin our regular session. Thanks.
Recording stopped.
Sorry, making me laugh and ask questions. I'm gonna be good.
Recording in progress.
March 3rd, 2025. And as always, we're going to open this meeting with the flag salute. Director Harris, if you want to lead us in that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this area, the Snohomish people, and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered, and taken care of these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, their stories, and their voices to form a more just and equitable society. All right, now we're going to move to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
I,
All right, motion passes. We're going to jump to the superintendent's report.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you for being here tonight. What a special night that started off with a great musical performance. And I also want to just share that on Friday, I met with our high cap teachers regarding the move to the new Liberty School site. And the energy that was there was really positive. And the idea that these teachers would be able to collaborate together and talk about common strategies for teaching high cap students was exciting. And if their energy is any indication of the success they're going to have, it's going to be a wonderful change for our district. So opportunity has come our way in the form of course, a financial calamity that we're dealing with. And this opportunity promises to deliver a better service to our children in this particular regard.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to move to communications and reports. First off, staff, student, and community recognition. We're going to do the student recognitions first. And it says here, student recognitions, living the Charger way. I'm guessing this is Marysville Getchell.
I'll get them all prepped and ready to go. Here we go. I am here to introduce, can you guys hear that all right? Okay.
Yep.
Miss Carrie Lindsay, who will be presenting some pretty amazing students for you.
Well, good evening, board and Superintendent Burgess. At Marysville Getchell, we empower students to discover and develop their talents, but most importantly, we are growing responsible citizens. Students that are already making a difference in our school and in our community. At Marysville Getchell, we make every day a great day, the Charger way. If you come on our campus, you'll hear that all the time. The Charger Way, it's an acronym for community, honesty, ambition, resilience, growth, equity, and relationships. And so I would like to start out by introducing Victor Gooding to share a little bit about our first recipient.
Hello and good evening, everyone. How are we feeling?
Pretty good, now that you're here.
Well, for our first award for living the Charger way, I would like to introduce someone who has affected our school environment in a very positive way. Someone who has displayed incredible character and care for our community. Despite joining partway through the year, she has already started a new Kids on the Block club and helps new students feel welcome. Let's give a round of applause for Ada Harlan.
Ada, and my life at Getchell has been very different and changed in such a positive way. At Getchell, I have learned so much more about life and how to live through it more than I did at my old school. It's a very welcoming community. It's from people from the LGBTQ community, or there's a Christian club too. There is so much to do along with clubs that I'm hoping to join either this year or next year. There is just everyone there is so welcoming and so helpful. I've bonded with a lot of the teachers and they were just so comforting coming from a really hard school. And Getchell has just been such an amazing place for me to be. It really feels like a second home. I'm always so excited to wake up and go there. And I just feel so happy having a safe place like Getchell.
Okay, so we have 4 students, but we've been having some logistical challenges because today is the first day of spring sports. And so we have some people that are still trying to make their way in here, but I want to make sure that we honor each of them. So, you want to go ahead and
Now, for our next award, it goes out to Jadiel Barrios, who was nominated in every category for his exceptional qualities in community, honesty, ambition, resilience, growth, equity, and relationships. He is held of high esteem with his friends, and he is a pivotal part of our Charger community. So.
So Daniel wasn't able to be here because he was going to try to make it, but they are doing soccer tryouts right now. And so, you know, he's still at the school.
Yeah.
The next student is Enrique Carmona Munoz, and he was nominated by fellow students for his outstanding qualities in the following areas: community, always supportive and encouraging those around him; equity, treats everyone with fairness and kindness, bringing joy to all; growth, continuously striving for success and personal achievement; and relationships, easily connects with others and builds lasting friendships. And unfortunately, he was ill today, so he did not make it. Oh, all right. And we got our final.
For this award, if you wanted a candidate for this award that is always determined to give everything her all, is an inspiring light to those around her, knows how to take stuff seriously but make it lighthearted for her friends, embodies the right values that a good track captain should have, then I'm happy to say that my peers at Getchell have nominated the right person, so I present to you all Bethany Campbell.
First of all, I'd like to thank Superintendent Burgess and the Board of Directors for having me here tonight. My apologies for being a little late. I just came back from practice. Although I'm limited on time, I will say this. I wouldn't be here today, up here today, without the incredible support I've received from not only my relationships I've created while at Getchell, but the staff that have pushed me beyond my limits and strived for me to succeed. Various people such as Mr. Naderstad, Ms. Lagore, Mr. Leftstad especially, absolutely have pushed me beyond anything I could ever imagine. And I really would not be as successful as I am now without them or my peers, Zaheen, and a lot of my friends. So Getchell is an amazing place. And there's such a strong sense of community there. And I'm so, so thankful that when I got to pick my school, I chose Marysville Getchell. And I don't know where I'd be without that today.
Thank you very much. Family, too, yep.
Yeah, families, yeah.
You almost go over there?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Yeah, something happened. I was like, it's like tilting that.
Okay, I can get everybody who's back and recipients in the front. Yeah.
Right?
Yes, yes, I am. Oh, God. You're good, you're good.
Do the full.
To get injured, at least you got a room full of witnesses. So
Thank you very much for that. Going to move on to staff recognitions.
That's correct.
All right,
Yes.
staff recognitions. Go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Burgess, Board of Directors. Now is the time for us to recognize some of our wonderful staff members. We are going to recognize staff from Marshall Elementary School, Marysville Cooperative Education Program, and Marysville Getchell High School. And each of these staff members have exhibited the quality service standards of the Marysville School District. So I'm going to start off with Marshall and Marysville Co-op. Mr. Keith Linnington, would you please join me? He's the principal of the building.
Thank you very much, Dr. Burgess, Mr. President, and distinguished members of the board. Appreciate your time and opportunity for this. So tonight we're going to honor and recognize 4 staff members. And while it was not challenging at all to find the strengths and reasons to celebrate these individuals, the challenge did come in only choosing 4 from Marshall. Marshall and MCEP are 2 fantastic places where wonderful people come together to create some fabulous opportunities for students, and that's why we're all here. But to begin for this evening, I'd love to first invite up Mrs. Sarah Howell and Mrs. Patricia Morris, please, if we could. While Mrs. Morris is not available to be with us this evening, I do want to share a couple of the words that were said and have been said about Mrs. Howell, and these can encompass both individuals very, very well. So everyone knows, Sarah joined the Marshall team this year and has been an absolute blessing to the school and to our students. Sarah demonstrates the highest levels of collaboration with teammates and holds student learning and relationships at the core of her values. This year has been especially tough for our DLP program, as there was an abrupt resignation in the building early in December, leaving our team of 3 down to 2 with still the same number of students that we had before that. When Sarah's neighbor classroom was without a teacher and a substitute, things became a little bit, or seemed to be a little bit bleak. Sarah partnered with her colleague and brainstormed a plan to collapse classrooms together and ensure that all of our most fragile Mustangs were attended to and still able to continue their learning in and around the building. In addition to her support of the students in the program, Sarah also partnered with the building psychologist and DLP teachers to set up a classroom space for an incoming teacher when we were able to find one. And her kindness and generosity towards staff and towards students and all of the pairs that she supervises is bar none. And we absolutely celebrate and appreciate Sarah and everything that she does very much. Thank you very much. And next, could I please invite Ms. Kirsten Green up? Kirsten is such a huge part of what makes Marshall wonderful. Kirsten has worked with the Marshall Co-op program and as a kindergarten teacher at Marshall Elementary. During her time in both programs, Kirsten has been integral in building up the PBIS initiative, Positive Behavior Intervention Systems and Programs at Marshall. Kirsten's ability to stay positive and look at new and innovative ways to motivate students and wrap around their different social and emotional needs has been fantastic. Kirsten's willingness to share her knowledge and expertise in team meetings, committees, and full staff situations helps everyone think about what is best for student learning and grow in their own practices. Kirsten creates a safe space for learning, making mistakes and improving for all her students, and works well in her partnerships with parents through her partnerships in the co-op program. We absolutely appreciate and celebrate Mrs. Green and everything that she does. Thank you so much. And that's all we had for tonight. I don't know why everybody else. No, there is another individual. We saved Miss Sean Jenkins for last because I believe she had a speech and maybe an interpretive dance. No, no. Sean, could you come? Sean has been a teacher in the Marshall Cooperative Education Program since its early years and has been a pillar for the MCEP community. Puts everything that she is into her teaching, and it shows through the student relationships and academic progress her students make each and every year. Sean is a mentor to so many in the building and is a wonderful voice whether through her work representing second grade teachers within our leadership team or putting together amazing and supportive activities through the Sunshine Committee. Sean is deserving of this recognition for this point alone. The piece that really makes Sean stand out is that it's okay to say that she's retiring this year. And at the end of our career, you would see how it could be easy to kind of ride that last year out and be ready for all those new things that are to come. But when you speak about Sean or see Sean and everything she does, her goals, instructional practices have only increased this year in everything that she's doing, constantly looking for new and innovative ways to reach and grow her students and her peers in everything that she does. And we absolutely celebrate Sean and appreciate her so very much. Thank you very much. Sean?
When I was in school. Actually,
Anywhere you get pictures later.
Okay, next, I would like to first of all point out that we have a fan club in the back here. The poster's down, but we had a fan club in the back.
I'm hoping they'll come up for pictures too
All right.
with the sign, please.
Okay, I'd like to call Carrie Lindsay for Marysville Getchell High School.
Exciting to be here a couple of times, and we've got representation over here too. Nice to see you here. So I am really excited because some of the people that we've had coming forward are the people that are mentoring and where we grow our own staff into amazing leaders, teachers. And I was just really excited to see Sarah up here. And like the teachers that we're honoring, they really do some great work in our community, helping mentor those new teachers, and Sarah being willing to reach out and help train. And I remember when she was being trained, and it's just so great to see us grow in our own here in Marysville. That's exciting. So for our first staff, to recognize, I'm going to ask Matt Arnold to come up to talk a little bit about her.
Dr. Burgess and Board, it's my honor and privilege to present to you Mrs. Karen Corajulo, our Registrar Assistant. Karen, if you want to come up here. I have some prepared words so I don't trip up. Karen shows exceptional dedication and hard work, ensuring the smooth operations of our school. Her willingness to step up and take on additional responsibilities has been invaluable in maintaining the efficiency of our administrative processes. From managing student records to assisting staff and families, her professionalism and attention to details just keeps the place running. And she embodies the Charger way, which you hear about. The way she interacts with everyone just makes them feel at home. She made me feel at home my first day at work there. Karen gives of her time supporting the athletics, and her efforts exemplify the courtesy and professionalism of the Marysville School District quality service standards that are essential to our school success. Her teamwork, positive attitude makes a significant impact, and we truly appreciate everything she does for our students, staff, and the school community. So Karen, thank you very much for all you do.
Good evening, Dr. Burgess and School Board. My name is Craig Brewster. I'm Assistant Principal at Marysville Getchell High School. I would like to invite Jeremy Lale up to the front here. I have the honor of recognizing Jeremy Lale, math teacher at Marysville Getchell. Jeremy would prefer that I just mention how great he is at golf instead of talk about him, but I do have a few more words to share. Jeremy recognizes and cultivates leadership in others, encouraging individuals to step into their potential. He sees the unique strengths of those around him and works to amplify their impact by providing support, guidance, and opportunities for growth. His ability to uplift and inspire leadership in others creates a culture of collaboration and innovation. Jeremy's dedication to education is evident in his daily preparation to support learning. He consistently encourages the engagement of each learner, ensuring that each individual has the tools and motivation needed to succeed. By fostering an atmosphere that provides learning opportunities, he empowers students and colleagues alike to expand their knowledge and skills, ultimately strengthening the collective learning environment. You still want me to talk about golf? Additionally, Jeremy excels in developing positive relationships. He takes a sincere interest in those around him, making each person feel included and valued. His active listening skills combined with genuine intent and care create a welcoming and supporting atmosphere. He accepts and celebrates differences without judgment, fostering a culture of inclusivity and mutual respect. Jeremy also is deeply involved in the school community beyond the classroom. He volunteers his time supporting unified sports at Marysville Getchell, demonstrating his commitment to inclusivity and student engagement. He regularly attends Marysville Getchell games to support student athletes, furthering strengthening his relationships with students and colleagues. In addition, Jeremy serves as one of the assistant football coaches where he mentors and guides young athletes with dedication and passion. As the math department head at Marysville Getchell, he provides leadership and support to his fellow educators, ensuring the continued growth and success of the department. Finally, Jeremy recognizes and celebrates the success of each individual. He acknowledges achievements both big and small and ensures that accomplishments are recognized and appreciated. His encouragement and recognition contribute to a culture of motivation and positivity in our school. Thank you, Jeremy, for all that you do to support our students.
We're gonna do a photo op.
Photo?
So did take my chair. What a guy. What a guy.
What's happening here? Can I take a chair? Oh, see? They're too old.
Oh, yeah, see,
I can take
no,
a-
we're not gonna leave you hanging like that, Dave.
I'm okay with this one.
It's like, you need a booster seat?
I think this is just as tall as y'all's actually, no? Oh, I'm good. I'll be okay. It's okay.
You can't tell.
Need some more supplies.
We need new chairs.
That, I think we're gonna adjourn the meeting. All those in favor? I'm just kidding. They say you can only use a joke 3 times before it's a bust, so you won't hear me say that again. I think that was my third. Alrighty. We're gonna move on to staff, student, and board reports, starting with College Success Foundation presentation.
Thank you, Superintendent Burgess and Board of Directors. This is actually in response to a request from you really early in the year. I presented about the College Success Foundation. I think we were talking about a data sharing agreement, and we talked about what they do, and you said, hey, we want to learn more. We want to hear from them. And they have been waiting patiently to be able to talk to you a little bit about what they do and how they're improving the success rate for our students at Marysville-Pilchuck. So tonight we have with us the director of the College Success Foundation for the Northwest Coastal Region, I believe, and his name is Keith Van Essen. So I'm going to hand this over to him and we'll get to hear what they're doing.
Great. How's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, board members, board president, superintendent, and Bonnie for setting this up. Really appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk a little bit about the power of partnership between community-based organizations that connect and support Marysville students. And so ours is one of those, and we're just excited to have a little bit of opportunity to talk about what we do on a daily basis at Marysville-Pilchuck. Where do I point that way? All right, next one, there we go. So who is CSF? It's probably been a while since you've heard about us, and there's lots that's happened since then. But we are a nonprofit education organization that partners with districts and colleges across Washington State. And in our region, we support 4 different districts, Marysville, Mount Vernon, Bremerton, and Port Angeles. And across the state, we support actually 37 high schools and 18 districts. Our goal as an organization is to help young people who want to see brighter futures and more opportunity. And so we are really focused on helping young people find a post-secondary credential, because as you know, only 72% of the workforce in 2027 is going to require a post-secondary credential of some kind. So we want all of our students, especially our students who have high barriers to attending college or getting a post-secondary credential, to have the opportunity, and that's what we focus on. We do that through direct student programs, which we'll talk and highlight about tonight. And we do that through scholarships, through financial aid, support, and education and presentations. And then we do it also through other partnerships and initiatives. So you're going to hear about primarily direct student programs tonight. I think I can do this. A little far. There we go. So we're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year as an organization. And 7 of those years, we've had a partnership with Marysville, and primarily in Marysville-Pilchuck. We do support Marysville-Getchell through some other ways too, but our direct service programs are at Marysville-Pilchuck. In 2018 and 19, we started our partnership serving about 170 students, and it was through cohort model where students were sort of opting into our program and supporting and getting involved in our activities, our college and career readiness programming. But during the pandemic, we were asked by the state to expand our programs because of the need. And so we kind of pivoted and started a whole school model where we're supporting the whole school, but with a very specific focus on students who have higher barriers to attending a post-secondary institution. So, and now up to this last year, 2023-24, we served 850 students at Marysville-Pilchuck with college and career readiness activities of some kind. That's over 70% of the student body. And so, and going to serve as many this year as well. So, I am going to pass now on to some of the real stars of the show, our advisors that do the incredible work, and then they'll pass it on to our student to share a little bit about what it's like to get support from CSF. And this is Andrew Flores.
Yep. You got it. Okay. Hey, everyone. If we have not met, my name is Andrew Flores. I am a school-based advisor. If we have not met, my name is Andrew Flores. I am the school-based advisor at Marysville Pulchuk. With me is Theo. Theo is the 11th and 12th grade advisor. I primarily work with early high school, and so that is 9th and 10th graders. So our approach is targeted universalism. So we serve 9th through 12th grade, all students essentially. So we primarily, my job is to help with academic success, help kids get ready for college, kind of starting those conversations around post-secondary. And then I will pass it on off to Theo essentially. And we would, therefore she would take it over and allow students to help with, or she would help students with college applications, scholarships, FAFSA requirements, as well as WASFA requirements. So she's kind of the transition between high school and college. So she helps with that post-secondary pathway. So it kind of helps not only the students with 11th, 12th grade, but also transitioning into either a two-year college or a university, where we have actually college coaches that will help them. So we communicate with college coaches in that specific university to kind of help them kind of demonstrate what it means to be a college student. We're primarily housed at Marysville Pulchuk. It's in our career and college hub. And so NB 8, NB 9, we love having students come and share their opportunities and kind of show what they've got. We partner closely with our college and career advisor, Andrew Santos. Thanks for being here. And as well as the TRIO program. So yeah, I'll pass it off to Theo and she'll talk to us a little bit about the past experiences that she's had here for College Success Foundation.
Welcome. Let me tell you a little bit myself. Okay, so I am again 11th and 12th. My name's Theo, and I help support 11th graders into their career, and then what that requires. It may be apprenticeship, it might be vocational, 2-year, 4-year, and then along with that, I have at least 40 seniors that do college services. Let me kind of explain that. So what happens is that college service is like an extension of me in a younger version, and it's at EVCC or maybe Washington University or University of Washington. And what happens is the kids get introduced to their coach. And the neat thing about that is that it's a wraparound services. So all students that are in part of that will get the services they need, such as maybe budgeting, maybe doing some networking, maybe just having some community building. So it's a great way for kids to feel like they're kind of being handheld all the way through the transition of being in college. And we found that it's been very successful for our students so that they're more connected in the community environment. And then also we lunch with a pro. So we've had firefighters come, we've had mental health counselor come and talk about that. We've had a variety, we had a realtor come in. So it's just kind of a neat way for the students to get a connection within the community, see what's there and what kind of programs they went through, what kind of college, what kind of education they went. So it inspires and helps kids to open up their world to see that what's out there, it can be possible for them. And then we do the fall in love financial aid, because that you have to fall in love with that because it's a grueling, tedious program. But what's kind of neat about it is we have the ability to have kids come in and do workshops through Andrew and myself to offer them a lunch and then be able to walk them through the financial aid and the WASFA. And so that's important. We also partner with Passport and McKinney Bento. So we want to be able to support those students that they're not feeling left alone. And that's where I kind of play into that. I have a tendency to be a mother to all these kids. I'm probably more like a grandma or a great grandma to them, but I love to be able to have that opportunity to share and help kids feel inclusive and feel loved. And that's where I come into that. So, and then the other thing, we do lots of field trips. We do Everett Community College. We're doing soon we'll be doing an Echo Health at EBCC, and we go to University of Washington Bothell. And we're going to be doing some neat field trips in the future in May and to Museum of Flight and T-Mobile and careers in law, which is exciting for kids to see what all kinds of areas they could go into law, not just lawyers, but in those other areas that maybe they're more interested in. And then we just did a Brotherhood Initiative, and that is in University of Washington, and it was male students of color. So we had them come, and then the neat thing about they're inviting us to come and take a tour and have some game activities, and then we'll have lunch in the cafeteria. So this is a great opportunity for students of color, male students, to be able to see the dreams that can be possible for them. So that's wonderful. And then also, we're just doing events in apprenticeships, so we'll go to Tri-Trade and various places, women in trade, we'll get a chance to see that. So the neat thing about it is kind of exciting for us is that we have the ability to come into the schools and be able to build those strong relationships, but also inform them and also walk along with them to be able to figure out what their dreams and hopes are. So thank you so much for giving me the chance to share. Oh, yes, I forgot my last word. We want to bring Alasa, who is our student, to kind of give you a kind of an overview of what we are in this school. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alasa Infold, and I attend Marysville-Pilchuck High School, and I am a current senior. So I've been involved in the TSF since 10th grade, and they have truly helped me realize my potential and go after my ambitions and realize what I want to do in the future. Ms. Theo, Mr. Santos, and now Mr. Flores have been a huge part in where I am now. They motivate me every day and help me succeed with providing many resources and events like financial aid, scholarship, college applications, and with all the help and college admission decisions releasing in the spring. I'm so happy to have been accepted to over 11 colleges in the country and hopefully more as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I am a true, and I couldn't have not done that without them. And so I am a true advocate for all students to come and speak to everyone at the CSF because they truly are and because they truly care and want success for each individual at Marysville-Pilchuck. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Andrew Santos. I'm the Career and College Readiness Counselor at Marysville-Pilchuck. And I just wanted to take a moment to reiterate some of the things that our CSF partners have said and our students have said. And that CSF is just a vital part, is a vital to the success of our students at MP. Their support has opened doors and shown many of our students that a post-secondary education and a family supporting wage is not only possible, but completely within their reach. CSF's partnership and their work at Marysville-Pilchuck is creating a brighter future for all of our students, especially some of those students who are often overlooked or may even fall through the cracks of our system. So I am extremely grateful for our partnership and support and their support for all of our MP Tomahawks. Thank you.
Just a little bit of enthusiasm.
That's right. Yeah.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I have a couple questions, and then I'll kick it over to some of the board members. How many high schools did you say you served in Washington State? Are you guys open to talking about making that 40? We've got 3 other high schools, and I think that they would benefit tremendously from the services that the full services that we're providing at MPHS. I know we're providing some for Getchell as well, but what does that conversation look like? I mean, does the state dictate that for you guys, or?
And so that's one of the other ways. But as far as getting staff in the schools, we would love to. We just need to figure out a way to fund it and make it happen. So I would love to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Questions from the board?
I don't have questions, but as a parent that has recently gone through the college application and scholarship application process 3 times over the last few years, I'm so grateful that for the work that you're providing students, and like you were talking about, just opening doors and giving kids access to see what's available and out there is so important, because if you don't know, you don't know, right? And then having someone hold your hand through that process, because all of it can be pretty daunting, to say the least. So thank you for the work you do. I'm really grateful.
I was curious when you guys were talking about early high school advising and academic success and starting strong. And I guess just curious, how does like referrals happen for students? And then re-engagement and just what that looks like.
Yeah, so essentially we get referrals from counselors, teachers, right? So I'll essentially go into the classroom, present on a specific framework, essentially. So whether it's academic success or scheduling or time management, those type of kind of skills to kind of help them build those skills to get to like Theo's 11th, 12th grade, right? So yeah, that's kind of where the referrals come from. You know, I usually have ongoing conversations with teachers on like, are there specific students that are struggling? Are there, you know, students that might need a little bit more support or academic support? And then essentially look at their schedule. We have a data sharing agreement, so I'm able to access that information and then send a pass for them. And then during lunchtime, after school, I'm able to connect with them as well if they have time. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and 70% that's amazing number, reaching that many. You're a small but mighty team, so I think that's awesome.
Student reps, do you guys have any questions? All righty. Thank you very much for coming and presenting. All right, we're going to move on to school consolidation update report presented by Dr. Deborah Rumbaugh.
It is the same deck from the study session. Dr. Burgess, Board of Directors, good evening. So there we go. Well, almost. The deck.
Well, you could do the financial report if you're ready. Okay, so.
Happy to. All right. Thank you again for some time this evening to kind of walk you through where we are at in terms of consolidations. So want to just lead with our fiscal considerations and updates. There's no new information for you tonight, but rather just a reminder of the budget capacity that has been built in. And as we move through the next weeks and months, the board will have expenditures reported to them as they are incurred. You might recall from previous presentations that we do have some specific categories where we have made some cost estimates, and we will walk the board and the community through those as those purchases are made. In terms of facility and operations, just wanted to let the board and the community know that we have heard and are beginning to prepare the process of what Marysville Middle School will look like as the new Liberty in terms of what staff will be in what classrooms and sort of what wings of the building. And we really charge the principal of that building to lead that work, and he will be in charge of determining where programs and staff are placed next year. And of course, he's doing that in collaboration with the staff. So that is something that has been of interest to our staff. And so wanted to just let you know that we're taking some time and attention to do that well. In terms of human resources and staffing updates, you'll see that we have provided our staff with the Marysville Education Association seniority list. So grateful to Human Resources for their work there. Also working with MEA on a potential survey of MEA membership to determine what their interests are related to placement for the 25-26 school year. You heard earlier that we are really trying to prioritize placing folks where they want to be for the coming school year. And then finally, this week, we shared projected enrollment with each of our building principals so that they know what the enrollment is projected to look like at their building in the coming school year. In terms of communication, so we are trying to bookend our communications throughout the month. So you'll see there at the top, that very top bar, we're continuing to meet daily with our design team. We've added a couple of new members to that design team as we've moved through the weeks to really fill out that team. And then the other bookend would be our biweekly updates with you or for you for the board. And then in between, you can see we've got some weekly communication structures, both for staff and for families and for our administrators. And then finally, you may recall that we created a week-by-week document so that our staff would know what they could expect each week throughout the month. We've got a monthly roadmap that is available for all of our community to see. And then lastly, we added this month a building by building programmatic map. And I'm sorry, that's a lot of words, but essentially we wanted a way to be able to track for the board, you'll get this on Friday, and for the rest of our buildings, what programs and services are offered at each building across the system so that you could sort of get your arms around what all the offerings are across the system. And then collaboration, really trying to ensure that we are working alongside folks. Our school teams are continuing to collaborate with their various building leadership teams. There's a couple of different versions of that on planning efforts, specifically in sort of the loose components of our tight, loose agreement that we made with our administrators earlier last month. We are adjusting our services and support to our building administrators based on what their needs are. At the end of this week, we will have had 5 successive meetings with our building administrators to get them prepared to do this work alongside their staffs. And then, of course, prioritizing our work with labor groups to ensure that we deliver on our commitments and receive feedback from our labor groups on how this process is or is not going well for them and their members. So a couple of updates specifically on elementary and secondary, and you'll see some common verbiage on both of these slides. But again, we're in the planning phase and we're going slow to go fast in terms of what will 5th and 6th grade look like. We are nearing a decision point, which is that second bullet point, where we are going to have schools give us what they expect their instructional model will be at grades 5 and 6 this week. So we will share that. That was a specific request from MEA to help their members envision what each elementary school's model might look like, which then might inform their desires of where they wanted to go. And then we will, of course, share that with the board. Working to develop a music subcommittee so that we are able to expand our possible morning offerings to our 5th and 6th graders at our 3 middle school sites, which I guess would be 2 middle schools plus the New Liberty. So that's really exciting to think about expanding our music offerings significantly from this year to next year. And then lastly, really supporting our administrators as they begin to try to envision what their staff will look like in the fall of 25 and what can we provide for them and their new incoming staff in the spring so that they might be able to gather and connect with one another and do some spring bonding before they go off to summer and come back in the fall. Similarly, in the middle school staffs are in the planning phase. There's a lot of work to determine what will 7th and 8th grade look like. How will it be different in 25-26 from current and previous years? You can see some topics up here that our administrative teams and their building instructional leadership teams are working on. CTE, music, obviously prioritizing reading, writing, and math, which was a request of the board. Similarly to elementary, welcoming new staff, and then they are beginning to build master schedules for the coming year and to try to determine what that will look like for 7th and 8th grade. And along with the prioritizing of the reading, writing, and math, the master schedules will begin to reflect preparation for our middle schoolers for high school specifically, which is exciting. And then lastly, just reminding all of us to think about what is it that we as an organization want to provide for students P12, in addition to the great work we're doing this year in 5, 6, and 7, 8. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? We appreciate the thorough breakdown of this in the work study earlier, and I know that there were some questions posed, and you wrote them down. And just for the community that's out there, if you're just signing in for the regular session, we did our work study today revolved around this very topic. So if you'd like to go back and take a look at that, I would assume it'd be posted tomorrow or sometime in the near future. Then feel free. But none of the boards have any extra questions? Or?
Just a comment that when thinking about the music programs and what that looks like for 0-hour offering, I think it's important that transportation is considered, like for any of the students that might take a 0-hour music class. I think that for access, it would be good to be able to offer that. So just a comment.
Yes, agreed. And we're working on how to do that transportation both ways, to and from. Any other last
Student
questions?
reps, do you guys have any questions for the slide? Alrighty. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on to cabinet updates presented by the executive directors.
Hello, Vonnie Walker, Executive Director of Secondary Education. Tonight, I am speaking on behalf of myself, Ms. Lori Knudsen, and on behalf of all of our administrators when I say that we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Dave Burgess for stepping out of retirement to lead our schools with such dedication and passion. Your kindness, student-focused vision, and people-oriented leadership have profoundly impacted our district. We appreciate your generosity, wisdom, and warmth to our community. Thank you for your invaluable service and for leading with a heart.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Superintendent Burgess, members of the community. Brandon Bowman, the Executive Director of Finance and Operations, with a financial update. We are continuing with our State Auditor's Office that started in February to complete our annual audit, which is progressing very nicely and on budget. To give some perspective, our 23-24 audit had activities through July and included 2 reviews. This year's auditors are planning on 1 review and a completion date at the end of March. This is due to confidence in our reporting and accounting practices and responsiveness. And I want to give a shout out to Susan Halliday, my accounting and budget manager, for making that happen and keeping me on my toes to make sure we make the auditors happy. We're all working to ensure maximum appropriate usage of our categorical funding through classification, auditing, and analysis of services delivered. To date, this has freed up roughly $1 million of our basic ed funds to help meet our year-end fund balance goals while providing service to our students. I'd like to give another shout out to Monica Sandoval, our grants manager, and Brandon Moeller, director of categorical programs, for working this effort with their leadership. I also want to give a huge shout out to my entire finance team for its resiliency in supporting multiple cost reduction initiatives while continuing to support normal business operations. Budget planning for the 2025-26 school year has commenced. As noted, we have distributed our enrollment forecasts to the schools. This reflects a continual trend of declining enrollment in variables due to school consolidation and moving to a K-6 model. We've had added considerations for a more conservative estimate, as well as our conservative funding estimates. Finance has met the reporting date and requirements requested by the Financial Oversight Committee, who are analyzing the data for the 24-25 year end and 2025-26 estimates. On the operations side of the house, in IT, we've filled our systems administrator role and 2 CTE tech positions to maintain security and ensure uptime and facilitate school consolidation plans. I'll be posting the position of a network administrator this month pending FOC approval. We're also looking to help facilitate school consolidation by backfilling a tech role and possibly bringing on part-time staff to assist with refurbishing of devices. In transportation, we're looking to procure 3 new buses to provide safe student transportation, meet Washington State Patrol inspections, and follow the bus depreciation schedule set by OSBI. The depreciation schedule is the source of funding in our transportation vehicle fund. And lastly, in our warehouse and print shop, we have partnered with our print services provider to renegotiate our lease agreements. Through an effort of consolidation and analyzing use case scenarios, we have signed a renewal agreement that will save the Marysville School District approximately $90,000 a year in print lease costs. And that concludes my report. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Lori Taylor, Interim Executive Director for Human Resources. We have been actively involved in impact bargaining related to the school consolidation project. We are in open negotiations with our labor partner, PSE, and we are in the height of the staffing process. And it is a complex process this spring. And on top of that, we have recently received a resignation from one of our key staff members who will be joining a school and continuing to support students. And we are cross-training and making sure we can keep moving along.
Thank you very much. That wrap us up there. All right. We're going to move on to the hearing of business of visitors. I don't, oh, someone have the list? No signups. Okay. All righty.
No?
All right. We're going to move on to the approval of minutes. Do you have a motion?
I move to approve the work study, the regular session, and the executive session minutes of February 19th, 2025 as presented.
I second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We're going to get into the consent agenda. Do you have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion?
Thank.
Oh, go ahead.
ahead.
I've got a couple of questions, I guess. Just to make sure I understand, looking at the purchase memo, January 25th, NPW, I'm not sure what NPW stands for, but it looks like 3 of those items on there were previously approved, and the new one is $1,500,000 for Everett Community College. Sorry. I don't think it's in the package. I mean,
I'm not seeing it.
Let me see if I can find the document you're referring to.
okay.
I'm listening to what you're talking about. I think it might just have to do with some of our contracts with our Running Start programs.
Yeah.
And so we have set aside in our budget money for, or really it's allocation, right? So the allocation gets shifted over to the community colleges. And if a student decides that they want to go to a new location, then it's all their choice. And then when we get the bills from those universities that, or those, excuse me, community colleges, we pay those out. So it probably hit the threshold to have that on there to make sure that you see that we're just making another purchase order, if you will, but we did not have to move any money in because we've already accounted for that within the larger budget.
And then just a comment on the request for travel. First off, I'm really amazed at the ability of the staff to identify outside sources for these these travels. So the trips still happen, but it does not come out of the general fund. It's coming from various grants and community support and all of that. And I think it's great that our students get that opportunity. And I think your staff needs to be commended for working through that in this tight budget times. But second, I'm really just personally enthusiastic about this trip to the Seattle Aquarium being entirely paid. I mean, the fact that we're going to be using community transit and public transit to go there. I'm a huge advocate of public transit, specifically, or especially now that we have much closer access to Link Light Rail with it being in Linwood. I mean, it's still a ways away, but it's much closer than it used to be, and it's pretty easy to get to from certainly from Everett Station and even from here. So I'm really enthusiastic that the staff is taking advantage of that opportunity and using public transit in order to do an activity like this. That's all I had to say.
It's a great life skill for those 18 to 21-year-olds that get to go on that trip, right? And just want to make sure we acknowledge gifts to district, sons and daughters of the Italy Lodge for band and CTE programs for $600 and funds to assist in instrument rentals, which is fantastic. And I think, something we're going to need to think about as we open up our music programs to our 5th and 6th graders and instrumental music is how we help support that effort. Some families may be able to rent an instrument and others may not. And, we're going to want to make sure that our students are able to take advantage of that. So appreciate this gift. And then I see that we have some surplus vehicles. I feel like we've surplus some vehicles often enough that it's probably doesn't need a lot of discussion, but thank you for including it.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Student reps, anything? Alrighty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We're going to get into some informational items. First up, Snohomish County Student Support Advocate Program. This is going to be presented by Sandra Madrigal, Interim Director of SPED Elementary Education.
Good evening, Dr. Burgess and the Board of Directors. So I'm going to give you some information about the Student Support Advocate Program. Background on this is I would like to propose to continue our partnership and contract with Snohomish County Human Services, which allows us to continue to have 2 student support advocates at both MGHS and MPHS for the remainder of the 2025 school year. There's no budgetary impact. And I will tell you how it aligns with the strategic plan. It aligns with strategic plan number 1, relationships, develop intentional partnerships and relationships to support student learning. That also aligns with number 3, teaching and learning, align curriculum, instruction, and assessment to engage, inspire, and prepare each student towards their preferred future. And then the strategic plan goals, 1.3, our relationships contribute resources that help grow and promote healthy working relationships with students, staff, and community. And 3.4, our district builds multi-tiered systems of support that meets students' health and well-being needs. And the future steps are action.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the board? I do really appreciate the practice that the district has taken on getting this information to us ahead of time before we take action. This has allowed us to really kind of dig through. I mean, your packet is 30 pages, and so it gives us time to actually dig into this stuff and ask you some more pointed questions when you come back. So I really do appreciate that.
Yep, no problem.
Any other questions from the board at this time? All right, thank you very much. All right, next up, new job description, SPED position, BCBA. This is presented by Lori Taylor, Executive Director of Human Resources.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Can. Yep.
Okay. Good evening, Dr. Burgess, members of the board. I bring before you a new job description, a board certified behavior analyst. This is a key position in terms of supporting our students with complex behavioral issues. It is the first position that will have a tremendous impact on the reduction of use of agency staff, and that this person will be able to initiate the analysis of behavior, development of strategies to support the students, and to guide the work of behavior technicians. We're starting with one, and it is really the first step in addressing the behavioral needs that our students are experiencing. And I bring this forward to you as an informational item this evening, and future action, it will be required.
Thank you very much. Any other questions at this time from the board?
Just appreciate your work on this. I know that it's been a point of concern, just the amount of resources we've been using to hire agency staff. So I appreciate being able to have our own staff here. And then I hear you say we're starting with one. And I'm curious, and this might be more of a question maybe for the special ed department, but kind of what you expect that workload to be like. Do you anticipate this position growing into 2 or 3 at some point, or?
I would anticipate that there might be 1 or 2 more, depending on the needs that are identified. The first step is to bring in someone well qualified to identify our current needs and help in the programming to address future needs on an ongoing basis.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions, board members?
So then this position will, in a sense, is gonna create the program to hopefully make like a career pathway for our paras to become behavioral X?
This is a MEA position. It requires a master's degree. So the next step for our paras would be something similar to a behavior technician.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking, 'cause, I mean, we've talked about it multiple times. And we're spending a lot of money on contracts to hire from companies. And so I guess I was just thinking that this would be like the starting point for creating our own type of
Yes,
career pathway for our paras.
yes, and to provide students with more focused, trained staff to support them.
Student reps, do you guys have any questions? All righty. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on to monthly financial actuals report for January 2025, presented by Brandon Bowman, Executive Director of Finance and Operations.
Good evening again, Board of Directors and Dr. Burgess. I'm here to present the month of January's actuals and financial report. I'm here to try to present the report. There we go. We'll start out with enrollment. We are projecting to end the school year at an enrollment of FTE at 8,888.1 FTE. That is consistently on pace of what we've been seeing in the past few months in that estimation. And this chart actually has actuals through February because count day is earlier than our financial actuals. So that has actuals through the first half of the year. So we're looking at an ending enrollment of just under 8,900.
I've got a question about that. It looks like the projection is down a little bit from what we saw when we looked at the December report. Do these, does that affect our revenue, that our enrollment is declining at this point?
Yeah, so for the first half of the year, OSPI funds our apportionment based on our F-195 submitted plan. And then as soon as January actuals hit, that does adjust our revenue and they start funding us on those actuals. And so, yes, it does indicate that we'll be receiving a little bit less revenue than was on the plan. Our plan was to end the year at 9,009 FTE at the beginning of the school year. And this is 120 kids under that.
And about how much revenue does that?
It is about a 1.5 million.
Okay.
As you can see, our general fund actuals here. So in January, we started with our general fund balance of in the negative. Our revenues came in at 13.5 million. Our total expenditures were 15.7 million. As I mentioned last month, our target for monthly average expenditures is 15.65 million. So we are just above that for January. We're still on pace to meet our expenditure plan that we submitted to the FOC at 187 million. We're just under 188 million.
Okay, I've got another question. It looks like our revenue for January is about $700,000 more than we were projecting before. Is that like an acceleration, or are we really getting more revenue from some other source?
So those are actuals, and they're coming in from, you know, a variability of grant funding and different funding through a whole variety of programs, CTE funding. So those actuals and CTE came in higher, and so that apportionment was higher. And then our total enrollment was down, but it's also reflected in going up and down. So looking at a total of our categorical funding, that is a model that has given us a little bit more in that regard.
But I guess my question though more is that just, okay, we got $700,000 more this month and we're going to get $700,000 less at some month in the future? Or does that really represent $700,000 in additional funding overall?
And that represents additional funding.
Okay.
This chart here is showing our revenue trends. As you can see, our dotted blue line, we are on pace and spending as normal. You can see in 23-24 that those lines are pretty much the same. So even with inflationary costs, we're still spending about the same as 23-24. And like I said, our expenditures for the month are 13.5 million under some of the previous years. Actually, that was the revenue slide, but the revenue slide also indicates that we are still on pace. And the expenditure trends, I'm reporting that 15.7 million for the month of January. And you can see in the month of January, there are multiple months where it's between 15.0 and 15.8. We're under with our expenditures at 15.7. Again, our goal is 15.6. So this next slide is also showing our year-to-date expenditure trends over the past few years, along with this year's actuals. You can see on the right that we are hovering between just above 41%. That is in line with the prior years. But it's important to note that this isn't total dollars, it's a percentage of our budget. You can see the bottom chart there is we're in January at 41.7% through the year. And then our revenue was just a little bit under that, and expenditures were just under that as well. So we are on pace for revenue and expenditures. I included this slide because we were, I got a lot of questions about why our revenue fluctuates. And you can see that our revenue and our apportionment does go up and down based on the apportionment schedule from OSPI. And you can see the chart on the right is a graphical explanation of the table on the left. So you can see that in January, we're just above our average expenditures and apportionment. And then you're looking at just that fluctuation that is impacted by our revenue stream. It's not a straight 8% per month. It goes up and down. This slide represents what we're spending our money on. And again, this is not total dollars, so we're not spending the same amount as we did in previous years, but it's rather the allocation of those dollars. You can see on the right, we're still spending about 86% of our revenues on people, and then 14% on our MSOCs. That is in line with expenditures that we've done the past 3 years by object. This slide is representing our fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. Our red dotted line is where we are in 24-25. So that's an improvement over our 23-24. You can see there are areas January, February, March where we're under the 0% line. That is due to a lower apportionment months. And we are expecting to get above that line in April through payment and levy payment. And still expecting to end the year in August at about just under 4% fund balance.
And I think it's important to know with this that the fact that it's negative in certain months because of the loan, the capital fund, that doesn't, that negates the cash negativity. So even though the number for a particular month may be below the 0% line, there in fact is cash to cover that because of the loan from the.
Yeah, that is exactly right. That's why we took out that loan in December, to cover our cash flow for those months. And then when we do receive apportionment and funding that is significant enough to repay that loan, we will do that at the end of July. And that's exactly what this chart says. This is our cash flow statement. You can see the dotted green line is our 3.5 million that we took from our capital projects slated to be paid off at the end of July. You can see the mountain of revenue that we're getting in April, and then how we're going to be using that to end the year at a positive fund balance. And there's a range of that fund balance between roughly 2 and 5 million. This represents our best case scenario. If everything goes our way, this is what we'll end the year at.
And I guess I do have a question about this one as well, because this chart for the future months is considerably different than it was when we saw this last month. Did something change? Because it seems to be that there's a lot more revenue in May than we were anticipating when we put the chart together, or is just.
Yeah, so we have provided an updated cash flow statement to OSPI or the FOC.
Okay.
Cash flow is updated every month to reflect the changes in when we pay things.
Okay.
So yeah, this chart will fluctuate as we manage cash flow.
The important point, I guess, is that this stays above 0, right?
That is my goal. And this is just a summary of all funds. We talked quite a bit about our general fund, but taking a look at our capital projects fund, we started the month with 7.3 million in the bank, ending with about the same. Our debt services fund was just under 800,000, and we're ending about the same. Our ASB fund started at 1.8 million, and we're ending it at 1.8 million. And our transportation vehicle fund, that I'll be talking about shortly, started at about 1.5 and ended about 1.5. Not a lot of activity in the other funds. Like I said, a lot of our attention is on that general fund and cash management. And this last slide is for Mark.
I think I've asked my questions.
Okay.
Thanks.
Brandon, could you move back to all funds document, please? And board members, I hope you can get to that document. I want to share with you some information regarding capital projects funds and how that might impact our district in a positive way. Our capital projects funds, we have the opportunity to capture the interest that is generated by the capital projects fund and move that back into the general fund through board resolution. I've asked Brandon to make sure that at your next board meeting that you have that resolution in front of you. There are restrictions on how that money can be used. Specifically, it would only be able to be used for MSOCs and not hiring and paying for staff. But it's an exciting opportunity. We're exploring with our partners at the WASBO to determine exactly how far back we can go to recapture those interest dollars. So when we take that money and we borrow that money, we're charged with an interest fee on that. Through your board resolution, that interest fee simply could be right back into the general fund. So that in and of itself is exciting. And also the $7 million that we currently have in the bank, the interest that's generated from that could also possibly be back into the general fund. So we can't touch the principal part of that, but we can touch the interest that's generated from that. So it's an exciting possibility, and we're working through the details on that, and I hope to have that in front of you for your consideration at our next board meeting.
Just to clarify, that's not just the interest we're paying because we borrowed from it. It's also the interest that's generated from however that money is invested while
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct, with the exception of specific areas like impact fees, interest, that would be off limits. But there are certain things that WASBO will steer us from making mistakes. We've had sample resolutions that I received today. I sent my email out to them on Sunday. They responded today. So we have sample resolutions for your consideration. We'll have something that will reflect that. And of course, they also provided the statute that allows us to do that. So it's an exciting opportunity for us to maximize that interest off of the Capital Projects Fund. So just wanted to share that with you.
Do we have a limited time to do that? Like, do we have to do that at the next meeting? Or is
That
it-
was, well, we don't have to do that at the next meeting, but there may be a time limit. For example, I'm exploring, the last question that I asked was, how far back can we go? Could this be multiple years in the past where we've taken out loans on the Capital Projects Fund? Could it be multiple years that this fund has grown its own interest? That has yet to be clarified. So that's what I know right now. It is really exciting to know this.
So I'm looking forward to that conversation. I would hope that we could have maybe a broader conversation about where our capital fund is and what we anticipate the needs are coming out of the capital fund, and then recognizing that we don't have any sources at this point in time to add anything to the capital fund. But I think we have a property exchange that is delayed, but we don't have a
Right.
taxpayer approved source to kind of grow those funds. So I guess I'd want to also understand, the capital needs that we have and that we can anticipate.
Right.
But the opportunity to kind of shore up our general fund is also a good one. I don't want to.
Now, this is a win-win. So you could decide in whatever direction the board wishes to use those resources. Right now, with those dollars remaining in Capital Projects Fund, you don't have that latitude. But once it gets to the general fund, you can do a whole myriad of things with it. You have much more latitude. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to be important for both us to understand the amount of money that could perhaps be transferred to the general fund, as well as what the timeline is for making that decision, because that's kind of a critical decision. It's one we can only make once, so we want to make sure we make it right.
You may have to make that every year. There may be an annual resolution that you have to make, but again, it gives you more latitude to determine how you use your resources. So again, I see this as a tremendous victory if it comes to fruition for the board and for our community.
And secondly, a couple months ago, we we authorized you to go out and get
Appraisals.
to get appraisals on
Yes.
surplus property.
Yes.
What's the status of that, or when we might be here about?
Well, we received the appraisal back, and the appraisal, or the appraiser did an appraisal where he basically said, if you were to sell this property and no one was interested in that 48,000 square foot building, what is your land worth? Well, clearly, we're selling a 48,000 square foot building, not just the land, because the land isn't zoned for, it's R5, so you're looking at 5-acre parcels out of the QCT property. Right across the street, they're actually residential lots, but the appraisal we got did not reflect the task that we've actually asked them to do. So we're going back and getting an appraisal that is based on cost, replacement cost, and you apply the depreciation of the 30 years that we've had that building, and then you come up with a true cost of someone that wanted to actually purchase a 48,000 square foot building, which is more reflective of the conversation that we're in with the Tulalip tribes. All right, does that make sense?
Yes. And assuming those property, I thought there were multiple properties, I guess.
There are 3 parcels there that are being appraised separately, yes.
And assuming those properties were sold, the revenue that came from that would go into the capital fund.
Immediately into capital projects fund, and I was not included in this recent conversation with OSPI, but I think they're very interested in moving this process along. I indicated to the board there were some legal issues regarding this, and we could not sell the property and then conduct an educational program on that property. When we surplus a property, we're indicating to our public that we have no educational purpose for that land. And it would be disingenuous to then surplus it and turn around and run a program on that property. That's the legal advice that I received. OSPI may have a different take on that, but I was not included in that conversation. So I will remain to, I need to learn more about that and see if they've had some incredible lightning bolt from above that changes the understanding of the law that I have. Okay? So there's a lot going on, and it's all pretty exciting, really.
I do want to say, I want to go back to the capital projects interest and using those funds. Ideally, our district gets to a place where we're at 5% ending fund balance with the revenues that we're bringing in and the expenditures the expenditures that are had. And we don't have to rely annually on the interest from our capital projects. So I think it's a benefit to us now, but I don't want to view this statute as something that we should look forward to annually, because ideally we get to a place where we don't need that, and that can collect. I don't know if it collects compound interest or not, but anytime you take interest away from something, that's less money for that fund to build more interest on, if that makes sense. And so I don't want to get into the habit of going to our capital projects fund in order to right-size our general fund.
Right. The delicate balance here is to make sure that you have enough money in your general fund to deal with the emergencies that will happen as part of our practice.
Right.
Without that cushion, we are floating on the edges of a lawsuit, putting us in a very negative situation. So the board, in your roles, you'll determine what you think that cushion should be. And I know that that's the danger without that money in your general fund. We're some tragic court case away from, or other situation away from needing those resources. And if they're in your general fund, and if you had a facility issue, you could still utilize those dollars in the maintenance of buildings.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I'd say that would be an important distinction to make. for sure. I just wanted to comment, I appreciate the presentation, but I also appreciate that you include the budget status report as part of the materials that you provide to us, which gives a lot more detail. And I guess looking at it on my phone, it's very small, but I'm wondering if there's any categories that are kind of showing red flags for you or that you're watching. Like, are there any areas where you're seeing our expenditures kind of exceed what we're expecting in a particular category?
Yeah, so monthly, I'm taking a look at our expenditures and ensuring that they're sticking within our goal of the 15.6 million. The one area that was sticking out the most was our reliance on the agency hires that we are reining in, doing great work transferring those costs from purchase services into our actual staffing profile. And so that is the only anomaly that really sticks out.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Questions, comments from the board?
It's kind of a sidelight to the capital projects. With the Liberty property, what our process on that? When is there a timeline as to when we need to make a decision? My understanding is we need to decide whether we're going to sell it or repurpose it, or I think there was a third option there. Which I forget what it was, many options, but what is our timeline on that? Are we constricted by that? Because I really, I'm kind of nervous about having a vacant building and vacant property sitting there that the district is legally responsible for, and all the things that could come with that.
Right. Honestly, this is an issue that's worthy of executive session because it deals with real estate. There is interest in our community regarding that property, and that's as far as I would go with the discussion right now.
Scheduled.
Student reps? Alrighty. Thank you very much. And you're still standing up there because you have the next action item, I would imagine. All right, number 4, informational item, purchase of 3 small buses.
Yes, board, I'm bringing this informational item to your view. We are looking to purchase 3 small buses per OSBI state quote of the 24-25 specifications, and utilizing the state contract. The district is meeting all bid requirements. The district is purchasing 3 new small buses to replace aging or broken buses that are at end of life per OSBI depreciation schedule. As I noted earlier, it is very important for us to continue to follow the OSBI depreciation schedule, as that is our major source of funding for the transportation vehicle fund. And as noted earlier, we're surplusing 2 buses that will not meet Washington State Patrol guidelines. Our transportation vehicle fund is currently standing at 1.46 million, and the purchase of these buses, the quote was $403,000.
Will you tap your mic? Is your mic on? Okay. It came across real light, so I didn't know if it was on. Any questions on this informational item? It seems like this is right. Again, I appreciate you bringing this to us before the actual action item. This is pretty common practice for a district to surplus our buses. As you mentioned, it's kind of how we get funding for transportation. And so I don't think there's any questions from the board, questions from student reps. Artie, thank you very much. All right, we're going to jump into board action items. First up, adoption of the Tulalip Tribe's sovereignty curriculum. This is going to be presented by Dr.
Well, actually, I've asked Vonnie to do that, so Vonnie Walker's going to do that for us.
Yes, and thank you for that opportunity. I'm really excited to bring this before you tonight, Dr. Burgess and board. This is a request for the adoption of the Tulalip Tribe's sovereignty curriculum, which I do believe that you just heard about, I think less than a month ago. So some background information is the board of directors received that report from the status of the Tulalip Tribe's sovereignty curriculum from Dr. Chelsea Craig and Lisa Sophie on December 2nd of 2024. Tonight's proposed action is the next step in ensuring the use and implementation of the Tulalip Tribe's sovereignty curriculum. In 2015, the legislature passed Senate Bill 5433, modifying the original 2005 legislation, now requiring the since time immemorial tribal sovereignty in Washington state or other tribally developed curriculum to be taught in all schools. In 2024, the legislature passed House Bill 1879, naming the curriculum in honor of John McCoy. The local tribally developed curriculum has been in the process for the last several years, and it provides the true history and culture of the Coast Salish people, specifically Snohomish, Snoqualmie, Skykomish, and other allied bands, signatory to the 1855 Treaty of Point Elliott. The Tulalip Tribe's curriculum is also formulated with a similar approach to Washington State's John McCoy since time immemorial curriculum that is provided by OSPI. Dr. Chelsea Craig and Lisa Sophie developed the curriculum in consultation with Tulalip elders and with the support of the Tulalip Tribe leaders and employees. A website has been dedicated to the Tulalip Tribe sovereignty curriculum work and includes access to all of the completed lessons, and you'll see that there is a link there. A schedule of the curriculum implementation is also linked there. School principals are responsible for observing and documenting the curriculum's teachings in classrooms to ensure its full implementation and our school and district's commitment to teaching local history and culture through the sovereignty curriculum. So I'm going to kind of skip down because the curriculum is still being developed. They've got a lot of it done, so we're really excited to implement what is done so far. But in the recommendation, I'm going to kind of point out those pieces to you, although we would like to continue to move forward as it's built out. So the recommendation is to adopt and use full implementation of the Tulalip Tribe sovereignty curriculum for grades K, 1, 4, 6, 11, and 12, developed and supported by Dr. Chelsea Craig, Lisa Sophie, tribal elders, and the Tulalip Tribe's leaders and employees, to be used in conjunction with the state-adopted John McCoy since time immemorial curriculum for all other grade levels. Grades 2, 3, 5, and 7 through 10 of the tribally developed sovereignty curriculum are in draft form with completion anticipated in the near future.
All right, thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
I move to adopt the use and full implementation of the Tulalip Tribe sovereignty curriculum from grades K, 1, 4, 6, 11, and 12 to be used in conjunction with state-adopted John McCoy since time immemorial curriculum.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Do I have any discussion from the board?
It says that the other, 6 of the grades are completed, 7 are in draft, are completed in the near future. Any inkling as to timeline on that, end of next year? Does it just, do we know how much longer that's going to, and we anticipate that to take to get the full curriculum completed?
I do not have a specific timeline. I do know that every grade does have some materials that they can access, but to get to that full level where you see those built out curriculums, I don't have the exact timeline. No, I'm sorry.
And I would also add that what isn't in the Tulalip specific is in sovereignty since time immemorial for all the other grades
Right.
too. This is just an addition to that curriculum to partner with the local tribe.
Any other questions from board members? Student reps? All righty, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next up for board action, we have leadership. This is presented by Dr. David Burgess, interim superintendent.
Yeah, to no secret of anyone that's here, tonight I offer my resignation as superintendent. But before I do that, there's some people that I'd like to thank. First, my wife, Gail. Gail, I know this hasn't been easy, and I appreciate everything that you've done to support me as I've taken on this task. You're a trooper. And Yeah, I'll always cherish you. So also, there's a gentleman here, Art Jarvis, that we recently made a presentation or visit to the city government to talk about the land swap. And I indicated to them that between Art and I, we have over 110 years' experience in K-12 education. Of course, Art has most of those, but no, we were about equal. And I think the mayor almost swallowed his pencil at that time. It's a hard thing to wrap your head around. But this work that we've taken on, this partnership we've taken on is, I really appreciate it. It's been one of the highlights of my career. You're just an exceptional person. Thank you. So, and I also want to thank the board. You've allowed me this opportunity to serve my community. And I want you to know it's been the hardest job I've done in the 54 years of K-12 education. But at the same time, it's also been some of the most rewarding work that I've done. Where we were at the start is entirely different than where we are right now. And the idea that today we had a packed board meeting filled with joy, that's wonderful. And I celebrate that. So when I began here, I had really just three basic goals. First of all was to stop the immediate bleeding with our budget for this school year and get to the point where we would have a positive ending fund balance. We're there. We've accomplished that. The effort has been tremendous. We've said no to things that I've never said no to in my entire career. But they were necessary things to say no to, and we've been able to improve our situation. The second part, we needed to implement strategies that ensured systemic change in our budget. Through your courageous leadership as board members, we've gone through a school consolidation program that was difficult. I know I've sat through every one of our board meetings where people have made passionate arguments to you about these decisions. You stood firm, and I appreciate that. That's leadership. And I want you to know that those weren't easy. I know that. And thank you very much for that. But we have a 3-year plan that will restore our ending fund balance. That plan will need to be modified and revised annually, and maybe even more than annually, because there are always a list of variables that you will be forced to deal with. So that's important. The third, and really I think the most significant problem that we face as a district is the constant turnover in the superintendency. No district can succeed with a revolving door in the superintendent's chair. And clearly at this ripe old age, I am not a long-term solution. But we have a long-term solution with us, and that's Dr. Deborah Rumbaugh. And I am so thrilled and proud to have her ready to step in and make a multi-year commitment to our district and have that sort of stability that we need to move forward. There's so many things that we can do, and it's exciting. Soon we'll be able to focus in on what this business is really all about, not just balancing the budget, but actually improving instructional outcomes for our children. And that is what I'm excited about, is that next step in our process. So tonight, I offer my resignation, and I do so with real mixed emotions. This is very difficult for me, but I'm so proud of where we are right now, and I'm excited about what the future holds. And I'm really not going anywhere. I live 15 minutes away from here. I will be available whenever I'm needed. And if I'm not needed, I'm fine with that. I've got a yard that needs my attention, and I've got travel ahead with my wife. And I've just been treated with such exceptional kindness by our community. I just hope that they will embrace Deborah in the same fashion that I have been embraced. And there are better days ahead for us, and we've turned the corner through a lot of difficult decisions, a lot of hard work. And I'm proud to be able to offer my resignation and hand this off to the next person.
I'm not sure how this works. If we don't make a motion, you have to stay, right? And then
I have to talk to my wife about that. Yeah.
Well, do I have a motion?
I move to accept Dr. David Burgess's resignation effective immediately.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion from the board?
Well, I would just like to say, Tigwitzi, thank you to you for stepping in and helping us maneuver through some, really hard times for Marysville, unprecedented times. And just helping us move forward and bringing your expertise and your knowledge and really opening up and embracing the community and also embracing this board. I just really appreciate that. And I'm honored to have had the chance to be able to do this work together with you.
So I would echo Eliza's comments. Greatly appreciate you stepping in when you did and offering your service to our community, and really taking the temperature down at a key point in time. I also appreciate that you acknowledged that it's been a sacrifice for your family. And thank you, Gail, for giving up your husband's time to serve the community. I want to recognize that as well and just appreciate all you've done.
Very much.
Yeah, I guess bittersweet is a good way to put it, you know. We just have appreciated your integrity, your dedication, the honesty. You're a class act, and we're gonna miss you. I mean, even though you're around, we need to get like a little bat signal or something from the here to send out to help us. And it
Telephones work.
yeah, well, that's we're a little bit more dramatic here.
Not in Congo.
So, we're gonna miss you, and I guess the only thing that softens it a little bit is that having Dr. Rumbach. So we're thrilled to have her on board, and so it softens the blow a little bit. But it's I've just been really impressed. Haven't been in education for 110 years, but a third of that, and it's one of the best learning experiences and relationships I've had. So I thank you personally for that.
And again, I don't know what I could say that's more than people have already said. I had the opportunity to see you accept this position while I was still waiting to find out whether I was going to be on the board, and I knew instantly that it would be very interesting to work with, and I learned that you are very fun to work with as well. So I very much appreciate the experience, and want to thank you again for everything you've done.
Student reps? You don't have to say anything. I don't want to pressure you.
Can you hear me? Okay. I would first like to appreciate you and recognize that you made not one but two appearances to the ASB Leadership Classroom of Marysville Getchell. The information you had informed us regarding Marysville and, lack of a better word, the structure and financial aid we need to put and how we will progress in the future really truly enlightened us all. And as more of a recognition to how you affected us, we too as a community have built structures of our own to benefit Marysville financially by hosting events such as Hoops for Hope we had just got down with. We ended up making a very positive impact with that as well. And as far as what we will do to fundraise to benefit not only our school, but Marysville as well, you have brought more inspiration to us than I think anyone has. In fact, we talk about you very much during our exec board meetings. So I just want to accommodate and bring more appreciation towards you, considering that unfortunately it is your last night here. And we definitely will take you up on giving you a call just in case we need more advice.
And I would just like to thank you for your job here and your sacrifice coming back as the superintendent for a little while. And just say that we appreciate you, even though it's been hard with all the decisions and with my school and majority of our feelings about the closure. I still respect and am thankful for your service here at the district.
Thank you very much. I tried to hold off as long as I could. Dave, you answered the call literally when I called you during a moment where the district was going through we'll just say a tough time, and I wasn't even 30 years old yet, and I started to develop a gray eyebrow because because of the amount of work that the board had to do that was atypical for any board to have to do. And I remember giving you a call. I was pulled over on the side of the road, and because I knew the call was important because I knew that you were the person that we needed during that time to get our ship, so to speak, turned around. And I was so thankful for your answer. It was almost an immediate yes. I don't know if you had asked your wife yet, but you answered the call in a way that was more helpful to us than I think any other answer. And in your first meeting here, I remember there was a lot of contention at that time, especially in board rooms. But you had announced that you would be the interim superintendent, and all I saw from the audience or from the community was a sigh of relief, a sigh of hope, and a newfound kind of motivation in the community to get behind the work that we're doing as a district and as a city, as a community. And that was exciting for me. It was refreshing. And so I don't think that there's enough words to use to appreciate the time that you spent in the district, even before superintendency, when you stepped in as interim HR. You're a person who I'm just going to guess your love language is acts of service, because all you've done since you've been here is served our community and our students and our teachers and especially this board. So again, just to appreciate the time that you spent with us.
You guys got to stop this. Yeah. Like I told everybody the first day, I'm an emotional person. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and this is just a bit too much for me right now. So I'm just honored to have served, and I'm really thrilled with where we're at right now. We've made progress, and better days are ahead.
Is that the end of the discussion from the board? Nobody wants to filibuster, keep this going? All right.
I'm voting no anyway, so.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. All right. Do I have another motion?
I move to name Dr. Deborah Rumbaugh the new interim superintendent effective immediately. The oath of office will be administered at the March 17th, 2027 regular session board meeting.
2025.
Oh.
I don't want to, we don't want to wait 2 years. Yeah.
I'll second
Thank
the
you.
amended motion.
All right. If we have a motion and a second, any discussion from the board?
I'm really excited about this opportunity. I was impressed with Dr. Rumbaugh at her first presentation, and everything she has done since has further impressed me. Think we're very fortunate to have her available to fill this position.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion from the board?
Go ahead.
Okay. You going?
Go for
All
it.
right. I share Mark's sentiments. I'm very excited to welcome Dr. Rumbaugh to the Marysville team. I think we have been fortunate to get to see her and work alongside of her for the last 6 weeks or so and see how she's going to navigate through some pretty stressful things. I think we've all been told that consolidating schools is about one of the hardest things that you can go through. And I appreciate the way that she's approached that work as collaborative work alongside of our staff and the folks in our buildings and our families that are impacted. And I also just appreciate the organizational structure that you've brought to a really challenging kind of broad task. So very much looking forward to working with her. And like Dr. Burgess said, I mean, one of the things that we really need is to have some stability. And we really, I think we have that opportunity. So I'm very much looking forward to working with Dr. Rumbaugh and welcoming her to the team. This is not a surprise to anybody. I mean, one of the things that we've talked about as a board is we need to come back and look at our superintendent job description and evaluation. And I think that became clear to us over the course of the last year. So I'd like to see us as a board maybe put some structure around that. So that we have those conversations with Dr. Rumbaugh, with some of our stakeholders. I think our job description is pretty outdated at this point, and so we were going to want to update that in our evaluation process. So look forward to that work. However, it is that we've, whether we designate a couple of board members to just have a little work group that moves forward and gathers input, or just however we do that. But I think that'll be important work for us to get done here in the next couple of months or so. So.
I would echo that as well. I think having very clear structures and a clear understanding of moving forward, how we're going to, one, the job description, but also putting into place very clear structures for assessing the work that's getting done through the superintendent is important. And I think that we need to make sure that we're being really intentional in setting that up for our board success, but also so that our superintendent, our interim superintendent, can be successful in what they're doing and achieving what's the goals that are and expectations that are set out for her. And I'm excited that we have this opportunity. I think, it's obviously Marysville's been in the media and the news, and I think getting a really seasoned superintendent that has experience locally, we're very lucky to have this opportunity. And just thank you for stepping up to take this opportunity, Dr. Rumbaugh. We appreciate it.
Any other comments from the board?
No, just welcome. I'm glad we have somebody who's not afraid of a challenge, who isn't scared of the situation. Those are the kind of people I want to work with. Those are the kind of people we were looking with. We didn't think that, we had conversations, we didn't know who we would be able to find. And this just, sometimes, it's kind of one of those about time, something started to go our way. And so I think this is a good omen, a good sign. So welcome.
Reps, you have anything? First of all, you come highly regarded by Dr. Burgess in our conversations with him about you and your work. And my first impression of you was that you hit the ground running. Within the first week, you had a 3 to 5 year, plan for the district already created. And it really takes, for Marysville anyways, it takes that type of leadership. It's going to take that type of leadership, especially to get us through the school consolidation, the financial situation that we're in, and the academic achievement goals that we have for the district. And so we're grateful for this impeccable timing to be able to not only see you work as the school consolidation consultant, just that time alone has been refreshing for me to see the type of dedication and work that you put into that. But just to experience who you are, learn more about you personally during that time, makes this decision definitely easier for me because I know who you are, and you come with high recommendations. And so I thank you for being willing, like they said, to step into Marysville during this time where some of the most consequential decisions have been made and will be made over the next year. And you're stepping up to take on that head on, and we appreciate that. This vote calls for a roll call vote. So I will go board member by board member and take your vote for this action if there's no further discussion. All right. Director Davis,
Yes.
aye or nay?
Aye. A. That means yes on the sheet seed.
Director Michael,
Aye.
Director Harris,
Aye.
and Director Thomas.
Aye.
All right, and I am an aye. So motion passes. Thank you very much. And that's going to do it for a board action tonight. Some follow-up items. We have work study dates, board meeting dates coming up. March 17th is our next work study regular session meeting. Work study will be around 5 o'clock, I would imagine, and the regular session, as always, at 6 o'clock. And we're going to get into some superintendent comments. You have
Well, I
anything
think
else to
that
say?
you should probably ask her.
That's right.
Dr. Burgess, we have a no surprises rule in this business. Grateful for the opportunity. Like you said, there's a lot of work ahead, a lot of big decisions that need to be made, and in particular, leadership around sticking to the plans that Dr. Burgess and the FOC and the board have put in place, and really, really look forward to that. I would also agree, very fortuitous that I am, and my husband and I are local-ish, and really are invested in this community. My husband went through the Marysville School District, first grade through 12th grade, and even went on to Everett College, community college. So just grateful to get to know the community more, to be present, and to continue the great work that Dr. Burgess has put in play, and couldn't be more honored and humbled to take this on. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. How many last? All right. We'll go to board comments.
I think we said it all.
Yeah.
I will say I appreciate the community for coming out. And this, the new way that we start our meetings is amazing. To be able to hear our choir students from Sunnyside today perform was quite amazing. The second song, when the two sections of the kids had to sing something else at the same time. I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and to get them on the same page ever is almost an impossible challenge. So um, that's not an easy task, and so I really enjoyed that. And as always, I enjoy our student and staff recognitions. There's no better time than when you're going through tough times to recognize the students and staff who are putting in excellent work. And so that's been a joy for me to be able to do that, to be a part of that. And so I appreciate making that the new standard. And for everybody in attendance who has stayed with us today till 8:06, really appreciate it. And Zoom members, you have something to say?
I just wanted to spin off you.
Yep.
That the Sunnyside choir students said that they practice 1 day a week.
Right.
And so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I love being able to appreciate all of the students and staff, but I just really want to say that Miss Jenkins, when I was in school, was a teacher. She must have just gotten started, and she taught at Toledo Elementary, and she was Miss Hart, and she was a 4th grade teacher when I was there. And so seeing her in her last year here is, I just think it's amazing. And that she stuck it out and did all that, she stuck it out and with Marysville and is retiring from Marysville. She must have just got started then. Remember, I was so little, I thought she was very old. She was probably in her 20s, but like early 20s. So I wanted to spin off that a little bit because I think it's pretty amazing. She's getting recognized today.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I'm actually glad, Connor, that you mentioned the way that we're starting our meetings and kind of the new standard that you have helped to set. And I think we talked about how it's so nice to have this room filled with joy. And listening to the students at MG talk about the culture at their school. Miss Jenkins was my daughter's 4th grade teacher, and hearing the principal talk about the professionalism she brings to her job. I mean, I know with my students in the district, I've experienced that, not just from her, but with countless other teachers. So it's just really wonderful to be able to recognize that. And great to see these teachers that have been with us for, their entire career and recognize all they've given to our students. So.
Anything else? Student reps? All right. With that, we're going to adjourn the meeting. It's 8:08, March 3rd, 2025.
President Krebs, I'd like to get a photo with the board and both superintendents up front, please.